Recording in progress.
The internet, I guess, yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the Chaska Human Rights Commission meeting for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. First up on our agenda is the roll call. Will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hubbard, Commissioner Hanan,
Here.
Commissioner Welwert,
Here.
Commissioner Gotti, here, Commissioner Sandison, Commissioner Mee,
Here.
Commissioner Duffy, Commissioner Lesueur, Chair Carlson.
Here. Great. We don't have an open forum this evening, or excuse me, any guest presentation this evening. I had previously scheduled an individual to be here, but due to their conflict, it looks like, and their potential vacation schedule, we might not see them until July. So, sorry, but we've got a lot to cover, I think, tonight with our upcoming Pride celebration and talking about River City Days, maybe. So let's move forward. You were all sent the minutes from our meeting in March 27th. We were unable to have a meeting in April because there was a lack of quorum. So are there any questions, comments, corrections that you may have about the March 27th meeting? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Britt.
Yeah.
All in favor, if there's no other questions, all in favor of approving the minutes of March 27th, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
It's something new.
Yeah, I'm mixing it up. Make sure
Yeah.
we're listening.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Elise, would you be so kind to share the treasurer's report with us?
Sure. This evening, really not a lot has changed. At the March meeting, you approved the Pride Celebration Committee's budget of $2,000. So that's reflected in your balance at the bottom. However, I will note that as expenses are incurred and we come up with final totals at the end of the event, anything that's not spent will be put back into the balance.
Are there any questions about our treasury amount? Having heard none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Juhi, seconded by Kevin. If there's no further discussion or questions, please signify by your approval by saying yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Ayes or noes? The yeses have it. Okay. Into our regular business activities for the month. I don't think we have anything going in our human rights celebration or women's appreciation. However, I'll turn to Jennifer, Kevin, and Juhi to talk about Pride. And our wonderful postcards.
Thank you, Elise, for these postcards.
Who will give the report?
I'll give the report, but feel free to jump in if you guys want to. Things are really coming together, and we just have some loose ends that we're finishing up. We're about a little less than a month away from the event, which will be on Saturday, June 21st, from 3 to 6 p.m. at McKnight Park. So far, we have some committed partners with us. We have the Chaska Parks and Rec, Carver County Public Health, Carver County Behavioral Health and Housing, Sweet Salon, and Latino Voices. Latino Voices is thrilled to help out with us this year, but they're trying something new. They're not going to have a table. They're going to kind of mingle throughout our event and just talk to people, hand out their information, and just connect with people that way. But they're also willing to help us out with, you know, setup, cleanup. They've always been great about helping with that. Also, Zen Yoga. I talked with Krista, and she answered right away and said yes to a yoga class and yes to a table. So she will have both of those. I've also contacted Shepherd of the Hill, Crown of Glory, and Chaska Moravian Church, who have all said they will send a couple people to have, you know, a faith community table. They're
I liked
gonna get
that last year.
together and figure out what they're gonna do with their table, but they're really happy to be back at the event. I don't know, Elise, you might want to talk a little more about this. On my notes, it says the library is not participating this year.
That is correct. Conversations I've had with them, they're unable to participate this year for various reasons, so. I have reached out and asked them for a list of books that, you know, maybe we can give the list out to folks so that they can, people can check out books or do whatever.
Have you talked to them about maybe borrowing their button maker? Or-
I need to follow up on that.
Okay, because I know that that's something people love to do. So we might need a little lesson on how to do it.
If we were wanting to do a story time like we did last year, I'd be willing to like read the book and do the story time.
Great.
Okay, we could probably, you know, find out a couple of books that they have from their list and check them out in the library and then just have Kevin's story time. That would
Yeah.
be great.
Got
Yeah,
some
I think of
practice
the
over the last 9
families like
months.
that. The DJ, Zach Sarasig, has confirmed that he will be there, and so we're really happy to have him back. And the food truck Coffee on Wheels will be there. Nautical Bowls isn't available, but we're talking with Pizza Karma
Oh,
to see if they could maybe join us for that, which is also a great choice, I think, you know. I mean, pizza's always a great choice, but theirs is really great. Then we'll have ice cream. Now, we were talking about the flavors. Are we gonna do 2 this year? Is that what
So I think the biggest challenge we have at McKnight is that there's freezer space, but not a lot of it. And so, maybe paring down we typically offer vanilla, chocolate, and Superman. And we won't be able to store enough in there or keep it cold, because we've kind of rotated it, because it gets warm. So we're still trying to figure that out, but we thought if we went down to two kinds, that would make it a little bit easier.
and what 2 kinds have you selected?
Well, we were talking about that it would be vanilla and Superman, because that is dairy-free and is rainbow colored. And so, if people got vanilla, we could also get colored sprinkles to jazz it up a little bit. And if we wanted, we could get chocolate syrup, you know, for those people who need to have their chocolate. Does that sound reasonable?
I think so, yeah.
I had a question about that too. Have you checked on the bowls, spoons, and napkins supply?
We have some down there, but we'll probably have to pick up a few more before the
Okay.
event.
Our activities are the tie-dye t-shirts. We're purchasing 100 t-shirts that have a Chaska Pride logo on the front, but it's the same logo as last year, but we will not have the sponsors on the back, and we will not say the year printed on the t-shirt, so we can carry them from year to year. And if we want in the future to have a special Chaska Pride logo, we can think about that for future years. We'll have the selfie station, bubbles and chalk, beads for bracelets, the block party wagon, which has a lot of yard games, and hopefully it's gonna be sunny and really great to be in the lawn this year. Face painting, I talked to Sophia, and she is really excited to join us again. She'll see if she has a couple friends to help out. So, we have to check on how much face paint we have left, and then just get enough that we can have some on hand. Also, side note, Sophia just graduated with her AA degree this week, and her high school graduation is coming up next week, but she's already gotten her degree, so she's very excited about that.
That's great.
We'll have a sensory-friendly area, so if people want a break, then there's a place to go. I still am working on connecting about this community art project, but I think we landed on that we are going to do this underwater scene. Cassie Bernhardt had told me that she could do like an underwater mural, like on a fabric, that's just like the sea. And then people could either create their own sea creatures or underwater plants or whatever. Or she could even make some pre-made ones and they could decorate them and stuff. And so we just have all these unique and creative things that make up the community, and they can put them on the mural. Does that sound like a good plan for this year? Okay. I will continue to reach out to her so we can get that going. Advertising for this year is gonna be, we're in the Parks and Rec brochure, and we're on the city website. Social media posts are coming. We figure when it's closer to the date, it sticks in the mind a little bit better, so. Let's see. Oh, and we put in a request to be included on Lavender's website for their list of events. And then also the lovely postcards that Sarah had mentioned that Elise brought tonight. And we can, when you're out and about in town, just kind of ask if you can leave one on the table, or, you know, if they're willing to post it in their window, or give them to your friends. I just had a couple other questions for Elise. Can you put on your shopping list to have bottled water for the
Yep, already on
commissioners? And to make sure that the water is turned on at the park?
Yes.
Thank you. And then also a question about, did they have the same kind of picnic tables with the webbing kind of? Remember last year we had trouble with coloring and stuff because there wasn't a flat surface?
I'm sure I'll have to look and see what's there, if they're kind of the metal or plastic tables versus wood tables. I don't know which
Okay,
ones
because
they
I
have.
think we should maybe put like even like cardboard down or something on the tables we're doing art projects,
Sure.
so it makes it a little easier to do.
Mhm.
That's all I have, unless there's questions. I'm done.
Thanks. You guys have been working hard. Thank you so much. I do have a couple of questions. So, in talking or in thinking through the kind of who's been committed to having space, have we heard anything from Carver County Pride?
I have not. I have not reached out to them.
Honestly, that was me. I dropped the ball and forgot to reach out to them.
Okay,
So,
do you have a contact there?
yes. I'll have to look it up because I don't remember on top of my head.
Would we want to reach out to them?
If they're available, they're welcome to be there. I mean, we would, love to give a little promo for their event that's coming up. I think it's at a different time of year this year. So, yeah, September. So it might be kind of nice to let people know that that's coming up in the fall.
When Ren and Juhi and I were at Carver County Pride last year, I think I remember that a new group in Hutchinson, I don't know if you remember that, but they came over and said that they were just beginning to start a program, a Pride program in Hutchinson. And I'm just wondering if we want to reach that far out, because they were impressed with having Chaska at the Carver County event, even though we were not kind of in the main area of that program. But and it could be that they are not doing anything, but somewhere I remember in the back of my brain that Hutchinson was trying to establish a community group. And so
Do you know if they have like a human rights commission, or do you know what kind of group was planning it?
Juhi, if you don't remember, and Ren's not here, I just remember her coming up. I can see her face and talking about we're really excited about moving into and having programming further in the county.
Well, we can look into it. For
Sure, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
I'll be happy to go back to my notes after that event and see if I actually, it seems to me I wrote her name down. And it,
Wait, yes, you're so right. I just cannot remember now what she was, okay.
I'll go back and check.
Okay, let us know, because we
Okay.
can reach out to them. And we
And-
can find out when theirs is, if they're having one, and, let people know about it.
Sure. And the other thing is I was wondering if you had reached out to Little Ruse.
I have not. That is someone we also could reach out to, though, to see, right, if they have,
If they're
Yeah.
interested in
Yeah.
participating. I mean,
to show their support. I know they've been a real supporter of, LGBTQ community in this city and, the area, so that's a good idea,
So I just sent Chaska, not Chaska, we're Chaska, Carver County Pride an email. So,
great.
yeah. Because otherwise I would have forgotten again.
Okay.
So if and when they respond, I'll forward the email on to you, Elise.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. And then the only other thing I can remember from last year is, although we poured all of the tie-dye stuff together, I don't know how long tie-dye lasts, or the dye. Would that still be good from
No,
last year?
I dumped all the liquid because it would just evaporate anyway.
Oh, never
Um,
mind.
So we have some packets that we didn't use. I'll probably order another set, so we have a full set of colors.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Do we still have the bottles from
Yes, I
last year?
saved all the bottles.
Okay.
That liquid wasn't gonna last.
Right.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, committee, for doing all the hard work.
One thing I thought of too, Elise, is were we gonna be able to get some bags this year for people to bring them
like
home, like
Grocery
plastic
bags?
you know,
Okay,
like Cub
I will
Foods
add it
bags
to,
or whatever.
I
I
will
mean,
add it to.
we could
the-
also bring in, like, members of the committee.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I know we.
Everyone has a bag of bags. at
Yes,
home.
we do. Yeah.
So maybe we could just do that.
Yeah,
and,
if everybody can bring their bags, that would be great. Otherwise,
What,
I'll.
6 of us, so
I've-
if
I've
we
at
each brought
least-
10, then that'd be,
I think I've got at least
You know.
like 30.
yeah, I
We
think
might
we
have a
could
bunch
bring
still
10 or
from
more.
last year. I gotta check.
Elise, instead of buying another box that has more bottles, since we already have the bottles, I know they just sell the packets
Oh,
of
do
dye.
they?
So instead of buying more plastic, just buying the packets, I think, since we don't,
I'll take a look and see
Okay.
what's available.
just a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Anything else that we can do to help create this wonderful event that we're doing?
Going back to the bags quickly,
Sure.
Elise, do you want to send an email out to us to let us know if we have some or if we should be bringing them in?
Yeah, what I'll do is, we don't have another meeting before the actual event, and so probably that week, I'll send something out to the whole committee, just reminding, here's the times, she's gonna set up, and if you have any bags, that sort of thing, to bring
Okay.
them.
That'd be good. I can look into this Hutchinson group. I'll keep in contact with you, and then I can also reach out to Little Ruse to see if they have interest in joining us too.
Melissa has, she was one of the gift certificate individuals that helped support the art contest for the Dr. King celebration. And so I know that she still has passion for what it is that we're doing, particularly at this event. So yeah, I would feel remiss if we did not reach out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The other question, what was my other question I had? I'll think of it later.
Okay. You'll let us know about Carver, or you'll let Elise know about
Yes.
Carver County Pride. I just feel like this is an arena that as many folks as we can help be allies
For
to,
sure.
we need to do that. So thank you again for doing that. Ran and Kichi, are there any other questions about Pride?
Elise, were you able to get in touch with Rachel?
Yes.
You did, okay,
Mhm.
good.
Yep, she's committed, and
Okay.
we'll be there.
Perfect.
River City Days. Ren and Kichi are not here, so I don't have any updates from them. Do you, by chance?
No.
Neither do we have anything on cultural heritage. Indigenous peoples. I'm looking to you, Hannah. Although I know Kichi's not here, okay?
Yes, we do not have an update.
Okay, so basically, community outreach. There's, the three of you are here, so I can call on you.
I started an email to Kevin to set up a meeting.
Excellent.
Yes.
Good job.
Great.
Yep.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing the response.
Yeah.
Okay, great, terrific. Are there any other questions that we need to cover about our planned activities before we get into our funding request policy?
I don't think so.
Okay, so way back in February, February, I think, because we were going to talk about this at our, that's not true, in March, I guess, is when you first put it together. Because we couldn't meet in April, and so this has been just kind of sitting there, waiting for comments and ideas about how this policy, or a policy, could help to help future Human Rights Commission. So a little background. When Jennifer was chair, do you want to talk about financial commitments at that time when you were chair?
I'm not sure what capacity you're talking right
Okay.
now, so I
All right,
don't know.
I'll just wing it. You jump in.
I'll jump in if I can, yeah.
Okay. So in the past, when organizations approach the Human Rights Commission, they would, in all probability, approach either the chairperson or somebody that was on the commission. And at that time, and even when I first joined the commission, financial requests would come in. And the commission would discuss the event and take appropriate action. The kinds of action, or the kinds of commission or community members that approached us were the Southwest Chamber, Launch Ministry, I can't can you help me with the first name of the drums organization?
Or the Tyco drums?
Tyco Drums, thank you. Carver County Pride, Mikasa, Hooked on Books, I think is kind of just the general list that of organizations that have come to us and said, are you willing to partner with us on X, Y, or Z event? Or be present with us at our activities. And so at that time, it was a pretty much, early on, it was a pretty informal process in terms of organizations would approach us, it would be discussed, and dollar amounts would be authorized from the commission. In recent years, we've had specific requests, and they've come to us in the form of either, mostly in writing, prompted by a commission member saying, well, could you put that in writing to us? And so from the basis of having a guideline for those individuals that would like to partner with the Human Rights Commission, I think this fits the bill for us. I'm hoping that we can be thoughtful as we look to move forward on this. I think that there is, on the pluses and minuses of the policy that's been drafted for us, Elise was kind enough to put thoughts on paper. Many of it are great ideas. I think that where we might have some flexibility or where you might want to consider talking about is the sustainability and feasibility of the proposals that get submitted to us. What must be submitted to us in writing. The ability for partner organizations to say, can we deliver this proposal? How do we address interim requests? Because that too has been an issue for us. The request will come in mid-month or right after one meeting. We don't meet until and the event is upcoming. It's like right on their calendar. So yes, that could be a planning issue on their part, but how and can we accommodate those kinds of last minute requests to us? And then I guess one of the final issues is that what do we see ourselves as? Are we a funding mechanism for other programming in the community? Wearing our human rights hat, knowing that our human rights hat is funded by the city of Chaska. So in an example, I'll just pull Hooked on Books. They came to us, they wanted a large financial commitment from us in order for us to be placed in their publicity. How did that impact, what would that partnership have brought us? What would be the return, I guess, on our, if we talk about business, our return on investment? We put in $1,000 for an event. How will that positively impact our operations, our programming for the Human Rights Commission? So as it turned out, we gave them $100 this last year, but that's beside the point. I think it's the philosophical question of how do we look at ourselves going forward as we try to put a more formal guideline in place. What is it that the Human Rights Commission will derive? How will we benefit? And how do we evaluate that benefit when we're taking a look at the programming that may come to us? And then I guess the final piece in all of that is that we want to be responsible to our source of funding, and that source is the city of Chaska. And so we want to be able to show, demonstrate that if we partner with, if we host an event with, that relationship, that financial commitment has a benefit for the Human Rights Commission for the city of Chaska, and then ultimately the city of Chaska. So those are kind of all of my thoughts. I know that Elise, like I said, she put this program or this policy draft together for us to consider. I'm hoping that you've had a chance to take a look at it and have some thoughts about it. So kind of just throw that, so have I touched on the issues that perhaps you faced when you were chair and people came to you for donations?
Yes, there wasn't a very scientific method of how we went about it. And I think I have seen definitely an increase in requests that have come in, and almost all of them have been very worthy causes. But I think it's important to have this written document that gives us real guidelines to guide us, to guide us to our decisions of, you know, if we're gonna help financially with that, or if we're better supporting it through like in-kind donations. I know years ago we supported the powwow. No commissioners could be there. We did not have the funds for it, but we could donate snacks and water. And that would, and they considered us supporting them as one of their people in their literature and stuff, that, you know, they were partners with us. And it also showed that here's another thing that the Human Rights Commission, you know, believes in and really wants the community to be a part of, even though that weekend no commissioners could actually be there. So I think by having a written document, that it's gonna, you know, have us look at what kind of, like, do we want to do financial? Do we want to do in-kind? Do we want to do volunteering at something? Do we want to pass out flyers if they need us to, or, you know, even help set up and clean up or something, if that would be helpful. But I think having some specifics to look at and go back to would help us decide what we're gonna do with the budget we've been given and what we're able to do with it.
Thoughts?
I think this is a really good thing, considering how many, within the past 2 years, how many requests we've gotten for funding. The way we do it at my school, if we're gonna request from student government or the booster club for funding, there's a formal application process that we have to follow. So there's a form and a spreadsheet in which we have to detail what we're gonna do with the money, how much we want, and it all goes into a database on their end, so they're able to track it. And then afterwards, we actually have to go in front of them and present what our cause is, what exactly we're doing again with the money, and then at the end, they decide whether or not we're going to get that funding or how much they're going to grant. So if we requested $300, we might not get $300, we could get $100. So I think that's something that we could adopt for commission purposes, just because we have a limited budget. We don't get any budget renewals throughout the year. We're at a fixed amount, and we already have so many events that we do. And in past years, it's not been a lot of money left over at the end of the year, so I would hate for us to have an event like Cultural Heritage Month where it's closer to the end of the year and realize that we don't have enough funds left to do everything we want to do because we financially supported other organizations. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think there should be a application process, which if you use Google Form, it can be fed into a spreadsheet, and I think that's one way we can look at it, just to document how many requests a particular organization has made, if it's a recurring thing, and decide whether or not we want to make that a recurring partnership or not. But for our purposes in tracking, I think that's important, and also just, it makes it seem more official, and so parties are less likely to come to us last minute asking for funding, because if it's last minute, then we as a commission really can't discuss it and analyze whether or not it's going to benefit us directly.
I think also, to your point, is that over the past few years, we have really committed to a few larger events each year. They're annual events. And we have some history, so we have an idea of what the budget is. If we could, at the beginning of the year, set aside X amount, because we guess that's approximately how much we'll spend on the large events, then we have kind of a separate budget that's like our wiggle room money. And that's where we can, evaluate how much we can donate to other events or groups, and then how much we might need for some of our smaller things throughout the year.
I'm in agreement.
In your work, Kevin, Hannah, Britt, have you found that you've seen an increase in other organizations coming to your entity asking for funds because their funding has been cut? I'm just curious. I don't know if, and I don't even know if your business, your work time, if that is even an appropriate thing that somebody would come or contact your organization that you work for and say, hey, I'd like to have some money to do X, or
Not directly to us, since we're a nonprofit and we ask for funds,
Right.
but we have heard from funders that there's been an increase in requests to the funders.
yeah.
I would say something very similar, that like for a nonprofit, when we've gone to like other funders, they're like, yeah, like this money's kind of been tapped out or is being tapped out for very similar reasons, because the calls and the asks for funding has increased. There's been definitely, I mean, not in terms of funding, but in terms of resources, these last few months, I've seen quite a bit of residents asking in terms of, rental assistance or food assistance, so I've seen those types of asks go up. But for a nonprofit, we don't get a lot of funding asks.
Okay. And I don't know if it's a law firm. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, our firm, we, primarily interact with and work for like entrepreneurs and startups. And
Okay.
so they're not necessarily coming to us for funding requests.
Okay.
We assist with fundraising for some of them, but that's more on like a business fundraising standpoint with like investors and equity involved. And,
Sure.
as opposed to donations.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, I do get the sense that because, they're startups and entrepreneurs and money is usually tight, it's like even tighter than usual.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think the timing is right for us, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to ask you. I think the timing is right, that we try to put something more specific than, oh, sure, just contact the city and maybe they'll support us. I think that I think it's the right time to try to formulate some sort of guidelines. If you recall last year, the Mikasa came to us, no, excuse me, Latino Voices came to us and asked for assistance in their Day of the Dead celebration. And we had a formal request. Their executive director put together a formal request, initially asking for, please don't hold me to this number, but probably let's say $1,000. After we reviewed that, and with Elisa's guidance and the accounting department's guidance, we realized that there were some things that we could not help financially with them. And I think it was mostly around prizes. And so that their dollar amount, although originally requested at X, we funded at a different level, a lower level, so that we could meet all of the appropriate guidelines that we are limited to. And so I think having that process, and they put together a great proposal detailing all that they wanted to do, how they felt it would benefit the community, and their expenses. What we're suggesting with this guideline is that a proposal would need to include background on the organization, a description of the project or the partnership. What are we going to do together? What are the goals? That makes sense. What is the request? You know, are they asking, like Jen alluded to, are they asking for bodies? Are they asking for our smiling faces? Are they asking for us to be physically present? Or are they asking for an actual financial donation? What's the timeline? Hopefully it's not next week when they submit this proposal. And then I guess the biggest one is how does their request align with the things, our goals, our strategies, the bones of what it is that the Human Rights Commission does. Does that all make sense? So we're basically asking them to put in writing, document what it is that they want to do, what do they think the results will be, what are they asking for, and that kind of formal, maybe not necessarily formal, but I guess it could be a handwritten document, would come to the commission, and we would take a look at it, and we'd say, we'd discuss it, we'd review it, we'd say, yes, this meets our guidelines, yes, or no, we don't think that we can do that. That really isn't our avenue for promoting and encouraging a community of belonging here in Chaska. So I've done a lot of talking. Any thoughts? Thank you, Judy, for sharing what your school does.
I like that, yeah, I like that we're gonna make or create sort of some consistency between the requests and that, you know, the information ask for people coming to us is clear and would result in, you know, a presentation of data that we would find helpful for evaluating, you know, whether it's a good fit for the committee. I did notice, so on the back here, the proposal process that we just walked through, there isn't really a bullet point specifying what is the request. It goes from 3, which is goals and expected outcomes, to 4, which is the funding amount requested if applicable. So I would say maybe we want to put in, like, if this is the form that we're sending out, an additional bullet point that says, you know, what is the request, and if it is financial, then move on to this next bullet, just as a sort of nitpicky item.
So there's very specific, so we
know, yeah. Are you asking for volunteers? Are you asking for a financial commitment? Are you asking for resources? You know, where we maybe supply water, books, pamphlets, whatever, yeah. Anything like that.
I would think that from this written document, we would create, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but we would create a form that when organizations come to us, we can say, this is the information that you need to submit to us. And I guess I'm a little bit hesitant about, for me, the initial request. If I read this, I understand this. I know all the reasons why this is good. But if I was an organization that was just beginning, I might feel a little intimidated by this official language. And so I'm thinking a form might be a less intimidation, I guess. Yeah, a form that says, who are you? Kind of the who, what, where, when, why. What is it that you're seeking from the Chaska Human Rights Commission? But I don't know if that would meet all of these things that we've detailed. I'm just thinking about an organization that may be beginning, maybe who's beginning the process and may have language that is not English, just being able to ensure adaptability, I guess. Am I trying to?
No, and I think that makes sense. This would be more of an internal policy document that
Right.
we're aware of. On the form, what we could do is, like this, the guiding principles, we could put something, like we could just take these guiding principles and put it at the top. And then some of the questions we ask could, refer back to that. Like, how does your request align with our mission? What is the community benefit that, this event you're putting on or the project that you're completing, like how would it benefit the community? And tie it back to those sort of guiding principles. And then, I don't know if we'd want to put in the exclusions.
Well, let's talk about the exclusions.
Can we go back to what we were talking
Yeah,
about?
sure, of course.
Because I had a thought too that, some people are better at communicating through writing, and some are better in person when you're face to face or something. What if we recommended, if someone came and said, I have an idea for a project, I need some funding. And you say, well, we have this form, please fill this out, but could you please come to our guest presentation at our next scheduled meeting? They could talk a little bit about it. We could ask specific questions that maybe we didn't get out of the form answers that they gave. So they had a chance to explain it a little bit better before we started discussing, whether we could support this project or not.
I like that idea, and I think that could also be a spot on the form in which you fill out the form, and if you'd like to come in and talk about it, you check the box, and there's this feature where you can do conditional based on the answer that they choose. It could take them to another spot that shows our next meetings, which will check whichever ones work for you, and then obviously that would go to the back end, whoever's managing and looking at all of the results and things that are coming through the requests. So then we could manage based off of that, and then we get a heads up from the back end, and then we also see all of the answers that they've provided in the beginning, and then if we determine just based off of the responses that it's something we don't want to support, then it just stops there, and we just send them an email with whatever contact information that they've provided saying that unfortunately we can't support this. If it's something we want to see and they want to come in, then wonderful, and that's the way we
then
could do
we'll
it.
be in contact with them to set it up.
Exactly.
I think about, if I send you a text, it may come across very differently than if I'm talking to you in person, so I think some people would really appreciate getting to explain it, in verbally rather than writing it down.
And I
Or
think
present something. I mean, we have
Sure.
many people come in with presentations, which
Sure.
can be very helpful.
Also shows commitment to actually going through with it, which is important.
And questions will come up, and instead of just saying, oh, we need to email them to clarify this, we can ask right then.
There was another thing mentioned, I'm not sure who brought it up, but just the turnaround time in terms of last minute requests, which could
Yes.
happen. I think there needs to be a minimum amount of time in between your event and the time you submit your request, because we meet monthly, and that can kind of hinder some things in terms of event planning for an external party. So they should be aware of how long the turnaround time is going to take, and if they're expecting an actual, whatever it is, financial, monetary. I think if it's not financial, it's easier for us to do because we don't have to approve a budget. We just show up and we're volunteering whatever it is there. But if it's financial, there needs to be a minimum amount of time in between when that request is put in and when the actual event is.
Yeah.
So
That'd be a
as-
caveat,
yeah.
I'd say we put at the top before
Yeah.
they go and fill out the whole form. And then
Yeah,
Yes.
find out.
almost like a
Mhm.
policy that's put in
Yes.
place that says, we can only do this if we have
Yes.
enough time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because too often, in the past, I would say that we get the request, and it's just like, well, we can't do anything with it. And so, that's not, I mean, so, yes. And what is a reasonable time? Is it 90 days? If the time, let's take this month. The request comes in tomorrow. All right, the next time we meet will be after Pride, and they want to do a program August 1st. Well, does that give us enough time?
I think so. I think we just should say, like, you know, we meet monthly, we would, you know, we have to be able to discuss this before.
Yeah, and we have to vote on things at meetings.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
So I think if that's clearly just stated in the request form, then, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
you could say it takes 4 to 5 weeks to process each request.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a judgment call on that specific organization or anything. It's just, that's how we have to do things, because we need to be at a meeting to vote on things. It's not COVID anymore, so we can't do, you know, email
Spontaneous, yeah.
voting or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, Elise, you've heard our ideas. What do you think?
I mean, it's easy enough to put together an application form. We can make an online version if people want to do that, or we can make like a fillable PDF that they can just type in or print out and write out. That's totally fine. We do have built into the policy asking them to attend a meeting, and we'll just make sure that that's clear on the application form.
Is the form something we could link to our page on the
Yes.
city's website? Okay, all right, so like if they go to the Human Rights
Yep.
Commission,
Yep, I would just have,
Something.
our, communications staff just add a page underneath the Human Rights Commission
Okay.
page that,
if you're interested
That's
in
about it.
partnering.
yeah.
I
Okay.
was about to say that exact thing because you mentioned adaptability and accessibility to the forum. I think the more places we put it and the more we talk about it, the more we'll seem approachable because we're actually promoting it versus just, we have this, but we don't actively promote it because we don't really want to do it. So I think that would make the difference in terms of how visible we make the funding request. In terms of the language that's on it, I think to an extent it does need to be formal to ensure that they understand that this is serious and it's coming out of a budget that is not renewed except for once annually. So I
And
think
yet-
that's important.
For accessibility, I think it's important to put somewhere on there that, that maybe the form, like, someone could meet with the person if they can't fill out the form, or, you know, if they need it in a different language or something, because that, I've heard from many immigrants, is one of the hardest things is filling out forms for them when they first come to this country, because we are used to that, speaking English, everything we get is in English. If that's not your first language, and it's not the way that they did it where you were before, then it's very confusing.
If you use, I mean, mean, I think it depends on what form we use, but if you use Google, that usually you can use
You
all
can-
the languages that
Oh,
Google
okay,
Translate.
okay.
Yeah, we would have to get the, whatever they type in, we would have to
Yeah,
translate it.
sure, but
but-
we could use
yeah.
Google Translate
Right.
too.
Yeah.
And then invite them here and say, now we need to sit and figure out what we're both trying to say, you
Yeah.
know?
I think it might, I mean, I wonder what you all think, but I think it might be helpful to give like an upper limit to how much money
I was
we
wondering
have.
if we wanted to
Yeah.
put something in there about, you know, our typical
Yeah,
funding.
because it's not,
Is
Yeah.
up
I mean,
to
Yeah.
a
like-
certain amount.
a lot of my job is going around and asking for money, and it's not insignificant to like fill out a form and then plan my evening around coming to a meeting, and then if it's $50, I'm gonna be like,
Was that really
Oh.
worth it?
yeah, it's a lot of work. And so I think for people to know kind of what the,
Yeah.
what kind of the, what the limit
Limit that
might
we-
be. Right, right.
Would that language be something like funding
We could
up
just
to
say,
a maximum of?
or we could say, in the past, you know, our commitments have ranged between these amounts.
Yeah. The city has a limited budget, or the commission has a limited budget.
Yeah, so, you know, we could say if it's ranged between, you know, $1 and $500, and they were looking for $8,000, they know that's very unlikely
This
to
is
happen.
not,
That's
this
not
is
the
not
form
the
for them.
funding
Yeah.
source.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to think, I was on Carver County's website this afternoon, and it said, I was looking at a particular page, and it said grants are available up to, and I think they put a maximum dollar amount, so that's, I think it was $2,500. But with an asterisk that said, each request is evaluated on a one-by-one basis,
Yeah.
or something like that. I mean, they put in a caveat that kind of just said, okay, well,
We're not
you're not gonna
promising
get
that.
$2,500.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I think that in the past language is helpful, just because we're not promising anything about what the amount is gonna be this time, but it gives you a general idea of like what the range is.
Okay, so what would that range be?
What has it been?
I'm not sure what we, what did
Oh,
we?
gosh.
We had,
25, I think maybe, I don't know, how much were the taiko drums? I
I
had no
don't
knowledge
even
of
know
that.
because I joined after they had
Okay.
been,
So
brought in.
maybe I would say anywhere from, if we just gave water one year and snacks, that must have been like $50.
if
what was the
that.
Day of the Dead donation?
That was $850? $850?
Probably because it was towards the end of the year and we knew we had.
Was
room
that
in the
one of the
budget.
larger,
Yes.
Yeah.
the largest probably?
I think that's also probably contingent on how much our average spending per event as a commission is. So I don't know if that's something we can calculate right now or if we have to wait for that number. But I think based on how much we spend, the average amount of our budget, I think we need to take that into consideration before we can put an upper limit. Because depending on how many requests we want to approve per year, we have this limited amount, first come, first serve. The earlier you apply, the greater chance you're going to get your full amount. This is our upper limit. Having that listed on the form, I think, is important, but just we have to assess how much we spend primarily, I think.
I think too. I mean, I don't know. Like when I see the language of like, this is our range, I have a fairly good idea I'm not getting the upper range pretty, like when I'm applying, you know, I kind of assume I'm landing in the middle. So I think, you know, as long as you kind of, but it is helpful to know, like, is my range 10 grand or is it 75? Like, what are we, you know, what are we kind of talking about?
What scale are
Yeah,
we talking?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, our larger dollar amount events are the Dr. King celebration, the Pride celebration, the Cultural Heritage Month, River City Days at,
It's usually not too,
500, no more than 500?
I like the suggestion, if I can just make a recommendation or just kind of, having that range of kind of between $50 and $500, I think provides, but it doesn't exclude you from going over $500 if you want, depending upon the time of year and what remaining
Yeah.
budget you have. So asking for a range, or stating a range that you typically fund at, I think would be the best. And making sure the application form is commensurate with the amount of work they have to put in, because that's been, as I've worked on enough grant requests, making sure we're not asking too much or too little for the size of requests that they're asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, just saying like this is what we have done in the past, it's been between 50 and 500. It doesn't exclude us from going up to 800
Yeah.
if the situation
In general,
allows.
we don't usually go $800.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Bless you.
So, and I mean, they can always ask for more than 500,
Sure.
and then we can make that decision. But I would say that the majority of funding requests that we've approved in the past have fallen within this range.
Yeah.
For both in-kind and financial
Yes. Yeah.
contributions.
Yep.
That's great.
In kind.
Let's take a look at the other area that I think we should probably just think about, and that's the limitations and exclusions. And just so that we're all clear on that, if any of you have any thoughts. So we're talking about, if you've already had the event, we will not consider your request now. That makes perfectly good sense. Requests from political or religious organizations must be for nonpartisan and non-sectarian purposes. I think that's pretty clear. That doesn't preclude a group that's associated with a religious organization who is doing work within our community, but they have to tell us that they're not going to be partisan or sectarian.
Yep.
Okay. And we do not provide general operating support.
Yeah.
So if they're asking us to pay their Chaska utility bill, we're not going to be able to do that. Are there any other exclusions that you, or limitations that you can think of that we need to kind of detail?
I think we need to have a better understanding about what prize limitations are. That got very confusing earlier this year when we were doing some things that had to do with prizes, and we weren't quite sure what was allowed and what wasn't.
Basically, no money for prizes or gift cards is what we've been told.
Okay, no money for prizes or gift cards, or are you saying that gift cards are allowed?
No, gift
or-
cards are not allowed. We cannot use city funds to purchase gift cards.
Okay, but if some outside organization donated to us a gift card,
Yes,
then we
you
can
can
use
use
it.
that,
Okay.
yes. But you cannot spend city funds to buy a gift card to hand out to
Okay, that's what
somebody.
my understanding was, yeah, if it was given to the Human Rights Commission for a specific
That's-
purpose,
Yep,
then,
that's different.
okay. But do you think we should have a line in here about prizes, like that we shall not be giving, your funding cannot be used towards cash prizes, or?
We can add that. I did ask for, or in the proposal submission, I've asked for an overall budget and line item uses so that we could talk about that, but I think we could definitely add that here so that there isn't confusion.
Because that was part of what we took out of the funding for Day of the Dead.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I think if it's one, in our policy, we can just say, it doesn't have to be on the form, but at least if they ask for it for their prizes, we can say our policy states that,
Yeah.
Yes, because we had to take it out of Dr. King's celebration for the art contest.
Yeah.
So I think that yes, I like it, I like the idea, only because it was an issue.
What are prizes? Like, is it River City Days? Like, if you spin the wheel, you can get a thing. Like, is that
Jeopardy?
a prize? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to seek clarification on that.
If not, we'll have to go to sources within our community for financial support.
Or
Right.
prizes, if
Or
they wanna
prizes.
donate, like, you know, a gift card to their restaurant or something like that.
It puts more responsibility on us as members of the commission who are
Right.
kind of heading up that work group. But, if
We
we,
wanna follow the rules though,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
so.
And I think there's a difference between giveaways and, I mean, to have to like do something to earn versus just doing a giveaway at a booth is different, but
Yeah.
we probably just need to seek clarification on what it is.
yes, because Ren and Kichi need to know.
Ren and Keach need to know.
They need to know that.
Yeah,
Soon.
July is coming up.
July is coming. They have to know that stuff. Okay, so overall, we've spent, and I appreciate your thoughtful comments. I appreciate you walking through this. What do you think? Do you feel like you can move forward with this? Do you want to see another draft of this with the form? What's your pleasure?
I think it's great. I mean, there's a couple tweaks we walked through for the policy itself. But overall, it was really thorough and well done. Thank you, Elise.
And I feel like, you know, Elise has been taking notes as we've talked about the changes we were thinking about. I have faith in you that, you know, you always put together such great documents and everything that, I think it might be helpful to see it along with the form, if we could just do that through email and not have like an actual vote on it, but just like say, oh yeah, this is what it, you know, and if there was something glaring that someone had an issue with, then we'd bring it up, but I think it would just be nice to see it, but I trust that you will do a good job.
I kind of have the same view of like, I would like to see it, but also like, this looked good and I liked the minor tweaks, so.
And I would also say as you get requests, it doesn't mean we can't change something, right?
Right.
This isn't working, we'd like to see this, that sort of thing. So just consider it's gonna be fluid till we feel real good.
I like the idea though of having something in writing, so we can look back to it.
Okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, then the commission would like to move forward in approving this policy this evening and looking to the future for a form that would accompany this, that we would hand to organizations when they requested funding from us.
I have one thought to,
Yes, please.
you know, make everyone stay a little bit longer. I wonder if this might be, if we just added like one or two more questions, it could be like a funding / presentation request where people, if they don't know you, would still be able to ask to like come talk to the commission, even if they don't want anything, they just want to let us know what they're doing. It could be the way that generally that they can kind of get things in front of us,
I feel like that would maybe be a separate
form.
yeah.
Maybe, let me, just to throw out an idea, let me check, like, my guess is they're gonna look for information through the website, because
Mhm.
that's how it typically comes, and it comes to an HRC email. But perhaps they can create a form they can put on the website that has, like, here, if you want to request a presentation, fill out this form, and we'll be in contact with you,
Yeah.
something to that effect.
Yeah, because there aren't many groups that don't have a connection to Sarah in this town. But there are probably some that would, you know, they don't know how to
And we
get
don't know
in
who they
touch
are.
with us.
Yeah.
That was a compliment.
Thank
We
you.
love having you in all these things in the community.
Yes.
So, let me go back to one sentence before. Are we comfortable in adopting this policy this evening?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if so, is there a motion to adopt this policy?
I will make a motion to adopt the funding policy with, Chaska Human Rights Commission Partnerships and Funding Request Policy, as we have discussed tonight with the changes we discussed, and then also creating a form for people to fill out if they want to request funds. Does that cover it?
Second.
Say it again. What are you seconding?
Well, I can sum it by saying Jennifer has made a motion for the Commissioner, Chaska Human Rights Commission Partnerships and Funding Request Policy. That's been seconded by Hannah. Is there any further discussion? Having heard none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No. There are no no's. The policy is carried forward. Thank you again for the thoughtful, if not lengthy, discussion this evening. This is a big step for us. I'm really pleased to see this.
I have one question.
Yes,
Old business.
yes.
Did we order banners?
No, we have not ordered banners.
Okay. What's the next step on that?
We should create what those banners look like, and I'll work with our communications staff as to what.
Okay, because I know we walked through, we had a packet where there were options, and we selected the ones we liked, right?
Yeah, the one thing is we didn't have the design, the wording, that sort
Okay.
of thing, that still needs to be worked out. We did order the tablecloths though, so you
Okay.
have a formal tablecloth, at least that has the logo on it.
Okay,
So that was something that we brought forward, I think, earlier this year as something that hadn't been taken care of in 2024. And if I can just gently remind the commission that we talked about having words. So not a word cloud necessarily, but Chaska Human Rights Commission, and then words that talked about what it is that we want, that we think we're doing. Do you remember that? Those general, we were gonna come up with 3 or 4 powerful words.
I don't think we came up with the words.
That's right, we didn't.
Right, but we had the idea of, specifically because last year at River City Days, a lot of people walked up to our booth and asked what we did. And so we thought it would be useful if we had these banners that, highlighted at a very high level, what our purpose is.
You're absolutely right, and I'm thumbing through my package because I thought I had all of that information with me. Not to worry, Elise has it all. So we're not lost with the lack of information. Aha, I have found it. But if you'd be willing to work with communications and see what we need to do next, I don't know how quickly we can get a banner for River City Days, but yes. I think we talked about this kind of a banner, a retractable stand-up one.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about a tabletop banner.
I think we actually approved the banners, didn't we?
I think, yeah, you gave from which ones you wanted. I think the question is what wording and
Okay.
graphics or other things you would
Yeah.
like on it, and
Okay.
that's where I'm looking for some guidance.
Because we could, do we have, I don't know, if we have the actual policy anywhere handy, or if that's something we want to talk about next time. But I know in the past, we've referenced, one of our primary purposes is to educate the community. So
Right.
we could say educate could be one of the words. And now we're sort of pushing forward maybe a little bit more on partnerships. So I don't know if we want to say we could educate, we partner, we support, just throwing out words.
Educate, partners. Is
I think we want to make them action words, I think was the one thing we had discussed, so what are we doing as a group?
right.
Yeah.
I welcome your ideas.
Of 4 things that we do. Okay. It's the end of the day.
I mean, we could talk maybe more broadly about something what we do, like I know, we're in the business of inclusion, so is
Right.
there a term that we could use that would sort of relay to people that one of our purposes is to foster, a sense of inclusion within the community?
Or a
These aren't
sense of
action
belonging.
Or a
words
sense
at
of
all, but
belonging.
diversity, inclusivity, community, and equality are like 4 things that come to mind when I think of this.
Diversity, community,
Inclusivity and equality.
inclusivity. I have inclusiveness, but I'll write inclusivity.
I think we've talked about belonging too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Belonging. What was your last one, Judy?
Equality.
I think what I like about action words is it's easy then to talk about what we're doing. So, we could say we're all about inclusiveness, but what does that mean? Like, what are we doing that fosters this inclusiveness? Yeah.
I feel like I need a dictionary for this.
A thesaurus. Yeah.
What are, how do we convey, I think there's things that we believe in or promote, but they're not things that we belong, I suppose. But how do you kind of convey in an action word?
And well, and the other thing is the banner, it could have these big words, but then have additional verbiage underneath, sort of expanding on what that means. So, we could write support, and what does support mean? We support the community by attending multicultural events, or partnering with other community
Celebrate.
organizations, or I like celebrate. Yeah.
Or it could be 2 words: foster community, create belonging, instill equality.
Yeah.
2 things to go with it.
Very short phrases.
Right,
that-
yeah.
My plan is to give this piece of paper to Elise so that she can pass this on, or I can call Kevin and/or Krista.
No, you can give it to me. I'm just looking at kind of some of the stuff that came out of the council's strategic planning, and they haven't adopted the strategic plan yet, but just, one of their visions is in 2030, Chaska is a hometown for all, and that's kind of where some of this falls under, and so how we incorporate that. So I'm just kind of thinking in my head right now.
Yeah.
But having all this, and we can create a mock-up with our communications staff as to what might be best.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right. I think that was a lot of good, quick brainstorming. Yeah.
excellent, thank
Yeah.
you. Any other old business?
Not top of mind.
Okay, what about new business? Any other new business? I didn't ask that question. Okay, so, next meeting will be in June, after our Pride event. So I thought this month's belonging moment should talk a little bit about the Pride event that we have sponsored for year number 5 or 6?
5th year.
5th year. And I will tell you that this came directly from the Pride Corner. And the reason why I liked this so much, and I merely put it on this piece of paper for us, is because of the sentence that is at the very bottom, and that is participating in Pride offers a sense of belonging, an opportunity to connect with community, and a powerful affirmation that joy is not just something to hope for, it is something to claim. And so that's my belonging moment for our upcoming event. Pride events are important and are visible in our community, and I'm proud of the work that we do. And so don't forget to post our postcards or put them on vehicles that you may know in the parking lot. So, thank you so much for being here tonight. Appreciate the length of time you've had tonight. We'll see you in June. If the Pride Committee needs any help, please let us know.
You'll be getting an email.
Yes, you'll be getting an email from Elise reminding us for bags. Be prepared to have your fingers turn different colors.
I will not be there.
Oh, no.
Or for our next meeting.
It's okay, but we'll miss you.
I want to be there. I'd rather be there than, I'm gonna be in Alabama,
Okay?
so, for,
Whatever reason, it's okay.
or I can elaborate a little bit. My dad accidentally signed me up for a pageant because he just saw the word scholarship opportunity. And now I cannot sign any other contracts with any modeling agencies or anything. I am a current title holder. I have to do all of these events. I'm gonna be in Alabama for 2 weeks. It's taking up a lot of my time. I'm very unhappy with him. And every single time he gets a little bit on my nerves, I bring that up and then he gets quiet. So. Yes, so
Well,
I
I
will
hope you
not-
win.
I hope so too, because it's taking up way too much time. But that's what I'll be doing.
Should we write to Alabama and say,
Put a
vote
good
for
word?
Judy?
So we're graded on 5 different things. So it's self-expression, an interview, talent, fitness, and oh my gosh, academics. So it's those 5 things that you're graded on, and the total score breakdown, they're all weighted differently percentage-wise. But there's so many things I have to learn. There's a talent component, and it all just seems a little bit frivolous to me because they say that it's scholarship, leadership, talent, and yet there's all of these appearances, and it's, oh, you can buy flowers from your state, and they will be sent to your participant in Alabama. There's so many money-making opportunities that I'm looking at and thinking, okay, so this is just a giant cash grab under the ruse of like helping young women. Okay, so. I'm a little bit salty if you can't tell, but that's what I'll be doing instead of being here, which I'd much rather be here, but.
Well, make sure you think of us at least one brief moment.
Oh, I'll be thinking of you as I'm begrudgingly in like 90-degree Alabama weather, cutting ribbons, et cetera, et cetera. So.
We'll be proud of you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so I think that's it for this evening. Again, thank you very much. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Excellent. Our meeting is adjourned.